Hey everybody. Thought I'd stream because there's some stuff I've been doing offline. One of them I forgot to stream, and a couple other things I was just up pretty late, and I didn't want to stream that late at night because I might wake people up. But we have this nice collection of things that are created so far, so I'm going to kind of recap where I am right now. So I was able to define a subject in the table, which will then create data from templates for the data set or the table and the data point or the columns, which will then actually execute SQL to create my tables. So from there, what I had added is per data set, we're creating more tables for archive, history, and snapshot. But also, for both of these, I have clustered index, non-clustered index, and unique indexes defined that are also being created. So we also have defaults and nullable fields on here. But anyways, enter in a subject, get all my objects created, especially for the history. Now what I have to do is create views. Actually, I'm going to have to define another shape. I'm going to define the relationship. Shape. Because what I'll have to do is create views and triggers on tables and triggers on databases. Basically, the triggers will be attached to the data sets. So every time a data set is modified, it will contact, or it'll insert, update, or delete data. Actually, it'll just send data to the views, which will then send it to our history snapshot and archive tables. But every time a view is created, we want a database trigger to make sure that we have synonyms so everything else works. It's this giant freaking circle that every little piece depends on another piece. So, yes, basically this thing right now, what I have is my list of subjects that I've defined so far. Some of these are databases. Some of these are actually tables. So if I go to system history, this is where all the historical data is going to be stored when rows are changed. So pretty simple. I'm going to store the entire row as it is in a JSON object and give it my 3 dates. I use 3 dates for every time I want a date. One is, we'll talk about this a little later, is the date dimension. I can't build it yet, but I will soon. This date ID will allow us to link it to calendars, to different days of the week, awesome date dimension. But then we have the most commonly used items. What exactly was the time that it took place, and what's the day? These are just basically the triplets. Can I break this out into a massive date, split, or do I just want to know what day, or do I want to know what time also? And then the action, which you basically get from this, which is insert, update, or delete. We can use that in the trigger to figure out what's being changed. So that's the history. The archive tables also these all look the same. They're just named differently to house specific data. We have the dates and the row JSON. We don't need the action because, well, it's been deleted. So we know when it's being archived. We know that's the delete. That's the final action. So we'll have one record in the history that says delete, and then we'll know that it's in the archived area. And finally, what our snapshot tables look like is we're going to have that row JSON. We're going to have this snapshot ID, which I haven't defined yet. So that actually, I can do that and see how well this is working after I get the rest of my tables set up. And 2 flags, whether it was created or deleted. Now this snapshot ID is going to have the dates associated with them, when they began and when they end, which will allow us to we'll have our time there, because what happens is the snapshot, we have an active snapshot, and it's going to keep updating this JSON until we create a new snapshot, then it'll stop. So this will essentially be the max, you could say, of the history. What is our current state of things for this particular snapshot? So we should hit a button and boom, it'll start creating a new chunk of data. And what this should allow us to do is go from any snapshot forward or backward. We can figure out if this record was created during the snapshot, if it was deleted during the snapshot, and if both of these are false, then it was updated. So we have everything that we need for this, and we'll apply the same pattern to our procedures because we have history. How much work have I been doing? A lot of work on different on these. So it looks like when I create a procedure, it's not working correctly, but when I alter procedures, it's working just fine, adding the date stamp. So I got to figure out why, but that's for another time. What I want to do is fill this data up. So I ran it for system before. I was like, you know what, I'll just start streaming. I have all these other things I need to run it for. So let's do, it's like 5. So this will be 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Just because. What this is going to do is this is going to fill up the data set and data point tables and create tables and all that stuff. 1, 2, so we got a ton of data being sent back, but we're growing our snapshot and history databases just to make sure that everything that we've already defined, 10 was the last, 11, 12, 14, 15, 11, 12, 14, 15. Boom. Nice. So essentially where we are at is I should be able, please don't fail me now. Let's see. Will a snapshot ever overlap? That's a good question. I don't think so. I should be able to go in here and say, hey, you know what? I have a new subject to define, reference data, all that. It's snapshot. All right, the subject purpose is to model snapshot data. Snapshot. So we have 16. Now this is going to go on my system, but we have additional columns. So I should be able to take this, open up and pin this script as alter, just so I can get my JSON right here. Should we give it system as a parent? I believe so. I believe that, ooh. Will we store other system snapshot data? That is a good question. I don't think so. This is really just for us. We don't want to operate on multiple systems because everyone else's system is going to be whatever they figured, whatever they wanted to build it. Our system is the one that is consistent. So I'm just going to create a variable so it's easier to work with. So our new subject ID that we inserted was 16. And I want to give it some additional columns. So kind of figure out what do we need for this snapshot data. And I'll just give it a single line for my concat on pairs. Because it will be easier just to work it like this. Additional columns, and what are they? So we're definitely going to have 3. And these will be our dates. So I have a foreign key, and my data point name is sysdat date ID. Then I will have a date, which will be an event date. Instead of using generic, as you see right here, I created very specific dates, user-defined types. So I do have some generic items in here, generic integer, text, etc., generic date. But then I have specific definitions of data where I could say, hey, this is an event date. It's not some date. It's like, this really does matter. You know, I have a generic flag, but I have a system flag. Like, this actually does matter. So that is what I have here. Before I forget and run this and mess everything up, I'll do that. So event date and event date time are are triplets, DTM date time. So in the view, what I'll read is snapshot date ID, snapshot date time. So we think of when a snapshot begins. Do we want to store when it ends? Or is it just a begin? Because when one snapshot ends, the other starts. Will we ever create in-betweens? I don't think so. And if we don't have an end, then it's still alive. You know, the most recent snapshot is what will be alive. So I don't think I'm going to actually put an end in here. So I'm going to use message. Ignoring this, this would be a parent subject. So I will have descriptions, abbreviations, everything I need for a snapshot, followed by dates. And I think that is all I will need. So nothing else is jumping out at me. So, moment of truth. query executed successfully. So I should have snapshots. I don't. What happened? Did it build any of them? Fill all the datas. Got my data points. Got my archive data points. Archive ID. There's no reason. Let's give it a second run just to see. Nope, that's unfortunate. Oh, wait. Well, let's dig through and follow it down and see what happened. Let's see. Where should we start? Creation subject, payload. All right. Did I get new data sets for snapshot? I sure did. So, where data set name, Mike. I want to see them all. So, inserted all of the ones I needed from class family type. All right. Data point, data set ID is in the data sets that I'm looking for. My databases are also staggering, which is good. So that means it's defining them. Data points. Oh, 1, 2, 3, 4. Have too many of those. So I know what. Let's see. Snapshot, history, archive, and data type. Data set, data type ID is in my tree for my data set. But I just want the data set type ID from data set class. Table standard. Yep. Archive shouldn't have dates. And it might look like there are multiples for snapshot. I probably got, because I'm reusing procedures. It's interesting. What I've done, and it makes sense because I haven't tried this yet, is this will call this one. So this will get the template for realm class family type at base, make sure to populate the data point, but this will also call this one, which will create the archive snapshot history. Generic meaning every table we create needs to have this, which we'll also call this. So if I'm sending it additional columns here twice, I have to make sure that I stop doing that. So these are everything in my archive history and snapshot tables. More specifically, I want to see the date IDs. Just to make sure that only specific datasets have them. Oh, I don't know why I did that. I don't know why SQL let me do that. That's interesting. Oh, well, this looks correct so far. Yeah, we got our additional columns inside of some of these, but we don't have 4. That's what I was looking for. I was looking for one table that had multiple, so I don't have to worry about the history. Maybe this did work. Yep, history. Archive. And snapshot. No dates in snapshot. That is what we are looking for. Okay, never mind. Wild goose chase. All right. So we can see why the table wasn't created. Because everyone uses this. So before we execute, let's figure out why. So I already have this data. I don't need it anymore. We saw that it did create our data, so we just need to run the creation script to figure out why. Got all that, but our SQL is empty. 1, 2, 3. So we're missing something. Minimize this. You figure it out. So we have our database name, we're good. We have our data set name, we're good. We have all of our columns, we're good. After our columns, we have a blank piece, the primary key. No, that's it, that's good. Okay, so we don't have the file groups. For some reason, the file groups are not being picked up. Alrighty, that is correct. Damn. I should have known this. Alright. I need to do this in order. Create files and file groups. File group, files and file group. And these are related. Alrighty, is this called a SQL create? Nope. Excellent. And these just need subject IDs, correct? Yep. Dang. System object, dataset file. Did not relate the files to the subject. Therefore, 16 doesn't know what to do, and it's a stupid step, but data, if you want to create data-driven stuff, actually I don't care about that. Got to relate them, and we got to make sure they're all created. So now we should get our create SQL. Snapshot. Miss a step. I will get it one time. I should just put that in there. Actually, if I keep missing a step, what am I doing? So what am I doing? When I create a subject, before I iterate through the databases, let's make sure that these subjects are created. So the next time we do this, I won't have to worry about it. Create file groups before files. Sweet. Sweet. So I'll take care of that problem. But yes, anyways, so my circle. What I want to do is define the relationship shape, just like I've been defining all of these other tables, and I believe I still have them, so I'm going to close everything but pinned because I don't care about anything else. All right. So select from my dataset tree. Always work in interface. I have these templates, and I have one template for a dynamic relationship because this shape isn't defined yet, and we need one of these per database that holds data. It's our single junction table, our single bridge, cross row, whatever, where we can relate any row from any table to any row from any table, and we try to contain them within their own databases, but data will have two because we do all of our main functionality in data. Data will have two, one for specific data relationships and one for universal relationships, because data is our ODS. So I think I've defined most of this. Dataset dataset type ID. For my template, dataset name, dataset ID, dataset select, where dataset type ID 6. Boom. And I believe point. I have all my columns defined. Excellent. So there is a sequence involved. So this should match this, no problems. Awesome. But what I haven't done yet is actually test this to make sure that it is relating as it's supposed to. Because if I go back to my dynamic relationship and actually look at a base table, I shouldn't have any data, but I do. What? But I don't. So I just have the dataset record, not the rest. So I did define my template, and I just want to make sure that creating this subject works. So I want to kind of step through this process and trace my actions just to make sure that I'm not breaking anything. So all my work is going to be done right here and in the data point. So it's okay if we do this. We're going to skip creating the additional items, and we're going to skip the table creation for right now. We're just going to focus on the data point. So this data point, when I get my relationship in, what I'm worried about is if it'll pick up this information. See, what data point are we creating? So let's go ahead and let's give it a shot, I guess. See if it fails. Because we might not have classified it correctly. Oh, I meant to do subject. So system relationship is 13. So I didn't pick up anything. All right. So this is where I'm going to trace it down. First, I will have my for relationships. Ugh. Relationship dynamic. Sweet. So in this, we're going to see if I made that relationship yet. Subject family 4. And that would be the issue. All right, so back in the relationship we go. So what's my subject ID again? Family is 10, and my data set template is 196. All right, let's see if I can remember that. 10 for 196. All right, 4. And for my family is 10. My data set is 196. I know 10,096, but helps me. Commit. We didn't save that. Let's run it again. Oh, we got data points. Awesome. That's my data set. Oh, okay. Looking for tokens, make sure everything is lining up. Type ID, tenants, PKs. Okay, so it looks like that worked. Now let's see if you can actually build what you're supposed to. So now I have 2 shapes I can work with. Error. What's that error? Boom. Oh. SQL. Okay. So my subject, I probably need to be calling that 2. Is that correct? Well, let's see if we even have any data sets. We're looking for files, file groups, looking for clustered file groups. Let's see if we see anything that says relationship. Oh, we do. So it should be there. I guess what it's telling me is that it's not here, that it's not there. Local database ID is null, so it'll try to do them for all, or I will supply database IDs. So I want to supply database IDs, and that's all I have to do. And I want to make sure that I'm very surgical because I want to be archive doesn't have relationship history. We know does not have relationship. Does system have a relationship? Yes. The snapshot. No. All right. So on the database IDs, the database table for the database key name is system. So it should give me 4. Yep. Main archive history or something. So I'll just say, and the database type ID is in the tree for databases where all of these part. Come on. We want relational SQL local archive history snapshot. Just to be targeted. Awesome. Let's create my cursor, define my payload, database ID. So these are the ones that I want. Put that in here. Into the database ID we go. Go ahead and comment this out for right now. Awesome. So we want to create files and file groups. No. If I don't know you, I'm not answering the phone. Period. Text. That way I know who you are. All right. I'm not defining that. I have to find this. And I don't expect responses yet because we don't have messages set up because we have to do everything else in this circle. So set the payload equals a blank JSON object. Set the payload equals modify that object. The root database ID is the database ID in the cursor. And now we have relationship files. Awesome. Sweet. So now will you work for me? Rel ref snapshot. Oh. Boom. Oh, where's my system relationships? My realm class family types though. Oh, you know what? Dang it. Dang it. I know what I did. No problems. Super easy, just a data relationship. Nothing too special. Where's my cursor? There's my cursor. There we go. I need this, and I need templates for the realm class family type. Because I did not 51, 2, 3, 4. I did not do that. That is what I should have done. Snapshot. It's not just relate one specific table to a family. I work in a group 5. So I remember it's 4. And it's not going to be in order because I don't have a cluster yet. So let's figure out if it's at the bottom. It's not. Oh man, needle in the haystack. Frick. I gotta get these clusters built. Oh, found you. So what is this going to be? The last one out of 5. So we want this to be 50. Commit. And we want a very specific order, 50, realm, class, family type, 51 through 54, starting at 10, 20, 30, 40. So realm 51, first one we should create. Class 52, second one we should create. Family 53, third one we should create. And finally, type, last one we should create. No problems. Okay. We already created the file groups. One more time. Looking for system relationship, realm, family, class. There we go. Crazy, but it works. That's what I want. All right. So now I have, okay, I should make sure those work because I just earlier today got these snapshots set up. So right now I never use a cluster index on my primary key. So all these are heaps because what are you clustering on something that always increases? It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. So I've defined clusters. Easier to show than to explain. I don't need anything else. New project. Give me the system relationship. Realm. What do I want to do? Actually, let's do when everything in your system has a unique name, you do not have to specify aliases. Relationship. Oh, what am I doing? On system relationship. I'll just find type ID equals system relationship. Type ID. Definition. On a definition of data point. So system relationship primary key parent is the definition ID. Join the fun, the tree on the child is the data point. Type ID. I'll show you why. It's because where the system relationship key name is data definition to data point type. So there we go. Definition to data point type, joining on the appropriate boom, child. Parent, parent, child, child. And what are we looking for? I think we're looking for indexes. And the system relationship type key name is in the index main and index includes, I think is what I call it. So include. All right. So all you're seeing is the definition of the relationship. So what we have is definition key name and a data point type key name to tell us what is happening. And I want to order this. I want to order it by the definition ID followed by system relationship sequence. And what this will tell me is basically I have these, actually it might be easier to read like this, these specific items. Definition type. Darn it. So I have a non-clustered. For the primary item, it'll be the tenant ID. It'll include, oh no, it's the tenant ID, key name, and taxonomy, and it'll include this. Where's the, definition ID, then relationship type ID, then the sequence. There we go. In this one particular index, it is a non-cluster index that will go on every single table. The main part of the index in this order is we want to create a non-cluster index on the tenant, key name, and taxonomy ID and include the primary key. So each of these are different indexes for how the system uses the data. And on our clustered index, it's very interesting, is that we're going to start with the tenant and work our way down. Not every table is going to have these columns, but they'll have a combination of these columns. So we basically do a where in. Now this will automatically build our cluster indexes, and I have them for one for developers, where we always get the key and then look up a lot of information. So here's another non-clustered, and finally a unique index to make sure that, you know, we don't want our clustered index to have two roles. Primary key is just primary key. Cluster index is to help us organize on the physical layer what, order by the client that owns it, and the classification followed by date if it exists, like in history or event tables, the foreign keys and parent keys. So that's all we need to do on our cluster index. Finally, lastly, the primary key, to keep it in there at the very end. But this will give us a really nice slice to seek on before we hit the primary key. So what I want to do is create all of my indexes, and I should be able to just use a cursor. Oh, I could do it from a subject. Yep, because it goes down. So let's do it on subject. What do we need? Just the subject ID. So let us create a cursor. Subject is a reserved word for some reason. We want the subject ID from the subject tables. Where the subject type ID is in our tree. We don't want them all. We just want tables. We will need, just get this. Subject ID and the payload. I don't care about a response. Like I said, we have messages, but we don't have anything hooked up because we're still trying to complete pieces of the circle. Once we get the circle in place, the circle is the strongest shape, right? Not a triangle. It's a circle. It's a sphere. Change my mind. modify the payload, include at the root the subject ID. I smell food. I hope it's not ready yet. Indexes from the subject. One, the payload, and we don't care. Blah, yes, yell at me for simple things. That is okay. $16 is in there and 13. Awesome. Always do this. If you modify the table that you're currently using, a cursor will break. Therefore, instead of using local fast forward, you could just say static forward read only, and it will take a copy of the table and do it for you. Now, I don't know if I related the snapshots, these additional columns, to the subject, so I might actually have to do that, but I'll figure it out by hitting refresh. Yep, see, I did not. That's unfortunate. But, so, what's happening is, at least, what's a new one that we created? Snapshot. We should have our indexes created now on there. Do we have our defaults? We don't. But we have another thing to do that. So I'm just going to keep plugging away at increasing what the constraints and things are when I want to say, hey, create a subject. So I'm actually going to copy this. Say, hey, when I create a subject, there's some other stuff you need to do. So if it's a table, it's not just about the files and file groups. You have to create the data set. Now, is this in a cursor? Nope. So after I create my data sets, make sure to create the indexes. I don't know why I'm copying all this. I could just do that. That will create the indexes for everything in my subject. Now, when I'm creating the data sets, after I create the data set, insert, iterate through my templates. Does it exist? No. Insert, okay. Relate subject ID and the dataset ID. Create the data points, create the table itself, create the generic versions of that table. After I create the table itself, I want to make sure that the defaults are on there. So all I need is dataset ID, and that's what I get right here. So that works out very well for me. All right, it creates the table. Now I want it to create the defaults from the data set. All right, then it will go create the snapshot, archive, and history tables. But subject data set, I want to make sure it does this. So in here, what's going to happen is it's going to iterate through a very specific set of data sets for my generic templates, and this will just give me back the shells of snapshot, history, and archive. Go through, I do this nice little fold right here, and this is Actually, I want to talk about this. This will be a nice topic for all you new data people. So people think of patterns, and I'm going to do this. All right. Sweet. Sweet. 4 tables, classifications. Gotta mute my mic. So when I create one of these, it's going to call a procedure for generic. Nice. And then in this procedure, it's going to iterate through specific templates right here. Generic templates. So when I pass this data set ID forward, I have access to this information. You know, all of these columns. And when I pass it over here, I have access to all of that information. But what I really care are these columns. I'll change colors up. I'll do green because I can take this green and replace the realm, the class, but keep the red data to effectively reclassify something that I'm doing. So I have my standard tables in my main database, and then it will just reclassify them on the fly. Looks like crazy squiggles of a madman, but all of that craziness happens right here. That's all the code that it takes. So you think about how, not all the code that it takes. There you go. Think about how you can come in with your template, get its information, and kind of resort. What are my source data sets and what's the template? What are my source data sets and the template key name of Snapshot goes up here, boom, same classification. The really important part about this is that if I am looking for a class table, I can say give me a class table and it'll show me my templates, snapshots, standard, archive, history tables, and I can filter it down in case I need to do something on all class tables or snapshot class tables or snapshot base tables. So it's a really nice separation. But anyways, then I'm supposed to relate them to the subject, which it should have. Unless it's not getting a subject ID. Nope, it should have. Unless, I'm going to check this. Let's say my subject ID is 16. Dataset name. I want to see more than that because of this. So what if I were to say, using that same pattern, let's say not the templates. Everything else should be well defined. Bam. Tables, not the templates. Or do I want to be more specific? I run into this issue again. So you know what? Run all of the indexes for the standard tables, the archive tables, the snapshot tables, and the history tables. You like more of a white list or a black list? Not template or same results. So I will have that there, which means so many tabs open. I should really pin what I'm working on. But that still doesn't create, no, creates the indexes for the subject, and I have my defaults in there now because I followed it down, and it should be related because I saw the data back. All right. So nothing on database type snapshot. Iterate through all the subjects that are tables. Please create all my indexes. Oh. What? Index from subject. Did I just add something? I just add something. Boy. Why is that? Dataset ID. All right, let's go figure out what you're replacing. Invalid syntax. Don't lie to me. What are you creating then? It's got no taxonomy ID. It's got no key name. That makes sense. About nope. So it's not even building. Wait, no, you should. You should be building my clustered indexes, right? What's new? Boom, right there. So you should be building them. But you're failing on the first one. We're going to iterate through each index. Get the main data points and what's this definition? Got it. From subject. So I don't care if you fail on some of them. It's not there, it's not there. But I just hard-coded an ID because I was debugging, which I should stop doing that. There it goes. There it goes. I'm such an expert that I make the same mistakes everyone does all the time. All right. So now everything has our indexes on it, which is exactly what we wanted. Unique indexes on family history, date time, date ID, and the primary key. I think that's wrong. Should drop and recreate. What's my clustered? Tenant, date, time, date ID. Yep. Might want to remove foreign key from the list, date, time, primary key from the list for some reason. It keeps, oh no, that's implied. That's right. Why is this doubling up? We don't want that. Sweet. Does it say snapshot, snapshot? Snapshot, snapshot. Oh, yay. Oh, yay. Let's drop tables. That sucks. So that's what tokens do. I just have to remove that item. We want history, snapshot. Oh, and that's my call. Well, I'm gonna eat food. This sucks. Oh well. I'm gonna drop all these tables and then go delete the primary key data points from my data point table for each of these tables. And then make a simple edit in the data point table to change my template so I don't have this because this is garbage. It should just be the table name, drop TBL, add SYS for system generated. This is doubling up. It should just be definition class history ID. Oh well, I'm gonna eat food, figure out if I want to work on this some more, and I will be back. Hope you guys enjoyed. I will see you soon.